Cook. Here. Gammon.
Present.
Commissioner Phil Dodd.
Here.
Commissioner Paul Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Veronica Buchanan.
Here.
Commissioner Trey Gooch.
Here.
Chairman Alan McAdoo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I reviewed those and move for approval.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the minutes? Previous minutes? If not, all those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Goldstein, and I think Donald Lester got a presentation, a proposal for us. So I would like to suspend the rule and call him forward. All those in favor? Mr. Lester.
He's also a partner in the company as well, and will be a partner in this possible transaction. Lay in front of you, I put a trade proposal for the Goldstein building. We own a property on West Lytle Street that we'd like to propose to trade for that building. We see several benefits to the county and the county's taxpayers for this trade. The relocation of the building, you would be able to reallocate the $5.7 million budgeted for the remodel into a new construction of a new state-of-the-art building. The new building would require less maintenance, again, saving taxpayers money. The facilities would be in service-friendly area. It would be around multiple other county facilities, the courthouse, the county clerk's office, the parking garage next door there. We've also allotted into our proposal 2,000 square foot of floor space to remain in the Goldstein building with a storefront for the county elections committee. We understand that they wanted to stay there, so we would give them that spot on a 50-year lease for $1 to allow them to stay in that location. We would keep the building facade. We'd like for that to remain the same to preserve the historical appearance of the old Goldstein building as well. And you guys would understand from the estimates from RockCity kind of what our investment would need to be into the Goldstein building as well to get it up to par and be able to use it for the services. Our vision of the building, again, we'd like it to be a cultural and entertainment center for downtown Murfreesboro. We think it would be a great supplement to the new hotel that's coming in at the Bottoms. We see nice, classy restaurants on the corner there. We would like to use the space in the building to be sort of an incubator of businesses. We'd like to bring in small businesses, give startup companies and local artists smaller store spots. We all know how expensive retail locations on the square is. So if we can offer smaller square footage spots for the startup businesses and startup artists to bring their work in, we'd like to offer that as well. A little small cafe outside on the mezzanine. Again, we're just looking to bring a cultural art and cuisine to the downtown area. Some of our vision, I don't know if you guys have visited the Marathon Automobile Building in Nashville, how there's a lot of little small stores there. The Low Mill in Alabama. Another location is kind of some vision of what we see for the Goldstein building. So we'd like to propose this to you as an even trade for the properties listed. We understand the difference in the square footage and the desire for the elections committee to remain. So we are offering up the 2,000 square foot of floor space in the storefront for that. Chris, did you have anything you want to add?
Not too much more than what Donnie already said. I'm Chris Bilbrough, by the way. I live here in Murfreesboro, and we were just, I think the long-term goal for us and a lot of other business owners in the downtown area is to make the square something of a destination for the whole city, because with all the development that's already going on with the One College Street, is that right? One East College development, and then the brand new development that was approved with the the walkway over Broad Street. We're going to have people coming down here regardless of, you know, whether we want them or not. We feel like it's a good thing, and we want to give them things to do while they're down here. We want restaurants, we want retail, and just kind of, you know, things that'll benefit the county and the city, the citizens and the government all together. And that's what we had in mind for the Goldstein building, was something of like a mini mall with smaller shops for local businesses and restaurants, and just a destination for people to shop and spend money and hang out and spend time. Thank you.
Okay, we've heard the presentation. Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Gannon?
Yeah, would you happen to know the value of your property and compared to the value of our building over here, the Goldstein building? At this time?
Not exact, no, sir. It's,
So,
Would we have it ourselves?
yeah, we got it.
Chairman McAdoo,
So you
I've
go
got it.
ahead.
Yes, sir. The property assessor places the value of, the market value of the Goldstein building currently, right now, is $2,627,500. And I believe it lists the square footage as 22,602 square feet. The three buildings that they're proposing has a combined market value of $569,500 and a total square footage of, like they says, around 6,600 square feet. So,
Is that the tax assessed?
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry, could you repeat those figures, please?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Here is the Goldstein's square footage is listed as 22,602 square feet. Right now, its total market appraisal is $2,627,500.
I'm sorry, can I clarify one more time? You said total market,
That's the land and the building.
right, but that's the tax assessed value. It's not like an independent,
No, this is
Okay.
not, this is from the property assessor's information
gotcha.
only.
Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, I can definitely see a discrepancy in the tax assessed value. I think if we were to do a, like an appraisal for market value, it might be a little less of a discrepancy, but we haven't had that done, so that would be difficult to say at this time.
any other questions? So basically, what is your proposal tonight?
I think we just wanted to see if you were all interested in discussing further and seeing if we can come to some kind of agreement.
Discussion further on the swap? Commissioners on the committee got any questions? Right now, we are in the process of hiring an architect to look at that building. Oh, Commissioner Johnson.
How would you feel about a trade for trading your building and $2 million for the difference in the valuation? Would you entertain something of that nature? Because you're getting a bucket full of gold versus a tin can full of gold, and you know, no disrespect, but money's money, and it doesn't come cheap. Would you be willing to negotiate a trade of $2 million? So you'd still be gaining some more equity, because $627,000 is more than $559,500. What do you think about that?
I mean, I understand from the property assessor's position and those numbers, those figures that he spit out, it sounds like that there's quite a bit of discrepancy there. However, I feel if we got a market evaluation, it would be a lot closer in numbers. The buildings and the property that we are proposing on West Lytle Street are valued at much more than that to the current day market. Also, I believe the board needs to take into consideration that you're putting $5.7 million into renovating a 100-plus-year-old building, which is going to still continue to need renovation costs moving forward into the years, where at this point, I mean, one of the buildings that you're purchasing is fairly newly remodeled. The other three are still in, bad condition. Not bad, but not great condition. And you guys would basically bulldoze those and be able to build brand new buildings with that money instead that would require a lot less maintenance costs moving forward. And we, however, would take on the multi-million-dollar renovation costs of the Goldstein building instead.
Right, I think what the benefit of the trade would, part of the benefit of the trade would be that for the county, it would be clean, come in and level the old buildings and start over fresh, which is pretty minimal as far as expense goes. On the other hand, when we're taking on this 100-plus-year-old building, just the cost of demolition and gutting it, we're estimating $1 million or so. And then that doesn't even count rebuilding back to new standards and getting up to codes and rehabbing the elevator, whatever else is in there. So there's quite a bit of expense involved in just keeping the building standing, which is our goal. We don't want to tear it down because we see a lot of historical value in all the buildings around the square, and want to preserve that. We don't want to tear that one down, so that we think it's worth spending the money on to keep it standing.
There's also the possibility that if we traded with the $2 million, that we might have to add that $2 million to the 5 something that we're looking at to bring this building up to what we need it to work for. So I know that's kind of like what if, but what if,
And we're certainly open to discussion on the trade. This was just what we came up with, what we thought would be a fair trade in our opinion, and if anybody has anything they want to discuss or counter with or anything like that, then we certainly be open to it.
Yeah.
I believe we'd really have to do some sleep on this and some in-depth before we could jump off the edge of the building. Okay?
Yep.
So we need to table this or whatever we need to do with it, Mr. Chairman.
I absolutely agree. I didn't expect to get an answer tonight, but I would ask the board to please evaluate both sides of the situation, evaluate, what, other than what the property assessor says this property is worth. I mean, go take a look at it and get some market values and see what benefits it would be for the county both ways, and see how it would work out. And we'll be glad to, again, entertain any offers and enter into a discussion about it further.
Well, it's food for thought, but keep in mind the meal that you're looking at is not always as good as you're expecting, Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gooch?
Just a question on the businesses I'm seeing up there. Are those rentals, or do you own those businesses?
The Blue Porch we do not own. That is a tenant. Cultivate Co-working is, we own that. That's my wife's business. The bail bonds place, they've since moved out, so the two of those spaces in 111 and 111B are vacant.
Okay, so the Blue Ranch, that's not part of the...
Blue Porch, yes, that's
I'm
part of it.
sorry, I can post it.
Yeah, that is a tenant in the building, and she is aware that we are, because prior to coming up with this idea, we were considering tearing the building down ourselves and building our own building for lawyers or whoever, because it's prime location for lawyers right across from the courthouse. And so when in getting tenants to move in, I've been pretty transparent about the fact that we may tear down at some point. So she is aware that that may happen. And then the other business inside the the 107 West Lytle, that's our business. That's, you know, we're fully aware.
Catherine?
Members, let me just give you a recap of what we've done with the Goldstein's building. I know Commissioner Cook doesn't like it. She feels like we've spent a lot of money there over the years. But if you will recall, last year, we hired a structural engineer because we thought that there was some issue up on the second floor and it was leaning a little bit. You know, as you know, there's 3 different buildings and it's really chopped up on the inside. So the structural engineer that we hired came in, he did the evaluation, if you recall, and said the bones are good. The bones are good in that building. So the dilemma that this committee was faced with, do we remodel the Goldstein's building or do we go across the street into the property that we own on the corner where the gazebo is next to the library? The staircase that comes up where the gazebo was supposed to come into the lobby of the county building from back in the early 90s when that whole structure was first built. So we own that whole corner right there, and the thought was back in 1991 was to build a 6-story building. You see the red lines that are there on the screen, and we were going to build a 6-story building for all county offices. Well, I believe Adam Rockwood came in, did an evaluation for us because they're working for us out in Rockville, and they evaluated that, or estimated, to build a 6-story building where the gazebo is around 11 or 12 million, compared to when they came in and did an evaluation on the Goldstein's building to remodel was around 4 million. Am I correct, Adam? About $4 million to remodel that. And I think this committee chose to kick it to the PBA and give it to the PBA. And PBA, at the last meeting, has now sent that back here to ask tonight for $300,000 for engineering and architectural design for that. So you're at that crossroads with the proposal in front of you. Take that in consideration. Or at a later point in time on the agenda, you make that decision, or you don't want to make the decision, you wait till the next month and make that decision. So that's what's before you tonight.
Commissioner Gooch?
Just to recap again.
I'm sorry.
Just to recap again, Mr. Mayor, you said the PBA is needing how much to do what?
I believe, Adam, because I had to step over in the budget committee meeting last month, and they I'm sorry. Come up and use the microphone, Adam. Oh, is that what he said? Okay, so they're asking for $294,000 before the committee tonight. That was going to be in Adam's report when he comes up in a few minutes, to go back and give them permission to move forward in selecting an architect and do the engineering design on the building. Now, the reason...
You mean, for the remodel?
Yes, sir.
Of the Goldstein building?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a cost estimate
Right.
from Rockwood of $4 million, but you still need to go ahead and select, because that was the will of this committee. And the thought process was to go ahead and get it going, because there was a timing issue with the election office. And if you're going to move, you remember that discussion, if Mr. Farley was going to have to move out, he wanted to wait until after the midterm elections in November. But if you wait until after that, and it took a year and a half to remodel, then that's going to put you into the presidential election 2 years later. If it took, remember that? So the thought was to go ahead and let PBA move forward on remodeling if that's what you want to do, and at least hire the architect, let them price it, and then be prepared right after the November election to start remodeling. So that brings you up to date. 5.7 million.
I'm sorry, excuse me. We're not in official business.
No, we
And
just
so
had-
I don't want
Yeah,
someone to tell us what that estimate is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're not,
no, we're not in no official,
so
we're still asking
we need
questions.
to stop this or,
Yeah. Anybody else got any questions, these two gentlemen?
Okay.
Thank you for your proposal.
Chairman?
Thank you all.
Now we're back in session to discuss this, the committee is. So Commissioner Gannon?
I just had a question about, real quick. I didn't like hearing that there's a discrepancy on the, we just had appraisal recently, right?
Yes, sir. I don't know if these numbers reflect that appraisal or not. I just pulled it up on the website. You can click property assessor data. So like for 107 West Lidle, you just click on the property assessor data and wait for the little.
Reason I ask, it's just, if it's not, it's going to be appraised for more because, I mean, I know my home and everybody else's home property has
Absolutely.
went up, so this is even going to be higher, so
Yes, right.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
And just one more thing that I didn't hit on, but the area of the land that the buildings sit on. The three buildings sit on 0.13 acres, and the Goldstein sits on twice as much land, 0.26 acres. So it's a bigger footprint, twice the size footprint.
Was the basement included in your square
I don't know if
footage?
it does, if it's included. I don't believe it is. So it's not a usable. There's about 10,000 square feet per floor. Yeah. So it's not counting the. Adam probably knows better than everybody. No, it does not. He says. So.
But we use it for storage.
Right. Yeah. Now, somebody like our planning director, Doug, could operate in there, but somebody like me, I'd hit my head on the ceiling, or Commissioner Dodd, so.
Well, our previous deputy director had an office down there, didn't he?
Yes, that's right.
Basement. I remember that. Any, Commissioner Dodd?
thanks. Are we back in official, are we back?
Wait,
We can't, if we have, it's my opinion and my experience with other spaces, for instance, the old coin exchange building, we could not negotiate with Mr. Taylor Wright rather, and that group. They could present to us, but we simply had to put it to the open market. We couldn't, so if we entertained this offer, some kind of a trade, I'm not sure what we're doing here. We're doing them a courtesy, and they're creative people, but don't we have to put this to the open market? That's my question.
yes, sir, you're exactly right. We have to put it to the open market, but if anybody want to come up here and make a presentation to us, we can gladly accept and listen. But we're not making any formal decision until we open it up to the open market like we did the corn building and the old bank building and so on and so forth. But we're not going to turn anybody down if they want to come up here and make a presentation. But we definitely cannot make a formal decision until we look at it on the open market.
Mr. Chairman, I think Commissioner Dodd is correct. But I think before you would be able to entertain, open it up, advertise it, that anybody wants to come forward and make a presentation like like Mr. Lester and his partner have done tonight, I think you would have to go in and withdraw your motion where this committee sent it to PBA and turned it over to PBA to
That's where I'm
Yes, sir.
leading, that's where I'm headed.
start selecting the architect, because it went before their body. We gave it to them and told them to go for it. And now they've kicked it back and saying, okay, we're ready to go forward, but we need some money. And that's what Adam's going to bring tonight. So you would have to make a motion to take it off, to rescind your previous motion.
Rescind the previous motion, but I myself personally is not looking at rescinding the previous motion. I'm looking at that we move forward, and if somebody want to come up here and make us a presentation or whatever that we move forward, you know, if it's a nice enough price, we can sell it, and with the architect fee and everything else can go to them. But we just can't stop this project. That's my understanding. That's me. That's just me now. But the committee can vote to rescind or whatever. But as far as what I'm looking at, since we send it to PBA, we need to just proceed forward. For example, to me, it's just like building a house. You bought the land, you start building your dream home. Somebody drive by and say, hey, I want that house. Well, you want that house, you're gonna have to buy it with all the additions or whatever I've done and at my price or something, you know. So I don't see us stopping, that's what I'm saying. But if the committee so decide to rescind the previous motion, we're open for a motion on that now. Somebody jumping to make that motion, so I guess we'll proceed on with number 3, Goldstein and RockCity. Adam?
Commissioners, I think we've already hit on some of this, Mayor. Last week, PBA kicked this back to you. If this is the direction that the committee is moving towards, they have requested $291,000 to move forward, and that is to select the architect and basically start the process of remodel. The number did change. These numbers originally, when we came to you and presented the numbers, it was in that 4244 setting back in December, and that was something that Ben had been working with RockCity on for quite some time. So now we're 6 or 7 months into those original proposal numbers. So those numbers have changed slightly. Now we're, I think Mr. Lester mentioned that it is closer to that 5.4 number now. There are some additional fees that it was my understanding in the past, as well as PBA, that there had been an abatement already completed on the Goldstein building. So, but if you're going to tear into that building in the fashion that we're talking about here, then we had to include some additional money for environmental and abatement, just in case, because there might be some areas of that building that have not been tested. There's some IT and some security stuff that we're not sure. We're projecting just high here with these numbers. Recently, some of the equipment that IT has in the Goldstein building, I've spoke with Cody, and we believe that we can pull some of that fairly new equipment out during the remodel and put that equipment back in. So there is some room for some cost savings that might keep us somewhat close to that 5 number. So, but as it moves forward, it is very difficult in this current climate to nail down a number for a very lengthy period of time, just so you know that. And I mean, there are some other items that we have projected, we have a cost projection on that gets you to that 5.4, that we could still see some savings. You know, there might not be the need for $100,000 in abatement. We might not need $900,000 in security and low voltage and cameras and IT. We might be able to cut that number down, but we have to account for it. If I'm going to present you with a comparison here, I want to let you know what you could be looking at in the future, and that's how we got to this 5.4. Furniture, fixture, FF&E, there could be some cost savings there as well. So some of the fixtures, some of the cubicles and office supplies could be pulled out and again put back in. That's to be determined. But as far as the numbers that were presented to PBA in last month's meeting, with an owner contingency of 10%, we're at 5.4, and like you had mentioned, PBA is asking to proceed. You're looking at $291,000 to award the architect for design.
And, Mr. Chairman.
Good, Mayor.
If the committee chooses to move forward, I had Lisa, and with anticipation of this meeting today, I had Lisa pull me numbers from Gov 20 and Gov 21 to see what money is not obligated from both of those grants that we received. There's sufficient amount of money if you proceed to go with the 291, and in your motion, the money is there.
Okay, so we have the money to proceed on with the
Yes, sir.
architectural. Okay, any questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Dodd?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Your 5.4 million has an estimate for abatement, whether asbestos or otherwise. It has an estimate for some IT, remove and replace, reuse.
Security,
Okay.
cameras.
And it has FF&E in it, some fixtures, furniture, and equipment in the 5.4.
180,000.
Okay. Does the estimate have design and construction drawing creation? The 291 is part of the 5.4?
No, that is a separate number. The 5.7 will be your total projected cost.
Gotcha. With design?
Correct.
So 5.7 million. Plus design?
Not counting the 291 for design and architecture.
Yes, sir. I rounded up to 5.7.
Correct.
And Mayor, remind us, what was our source of funding this? Were we going to the bond market or?
No, sir. As I stated just a moment ago, when I talked to Lisa this morning, we have sufficient funds.
For all of it?
Not for the 5, for the 291. There's sufficient funds for the design and architecture for 291 in Gov 20 and Gov 21.
Did we, so our approval to the PBA to proceed was to proceed with design and bring us back a more solid estimate.
Yes, sir.
And not to proceed with the remodel.
That is
or
correct.
We don't know the source of those, the 5.4.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, and then we'd have to go to the bond market for the 5.4 that you're
Yes,
looking at.
Yes,
Because
sir.
this 291 is just
What
approval
you-
to do that tonight if we.
Right.
Okay.
Once you have hard numbers.
Agree. So the 291 doesn't obligate us to do the work. As a matter of fact, it may give us enough information that we say, to heck with it, we're going to sell it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, just like
Okay.
just like I brought up before with the new house, you know, we doing the architectural work on this building, but that doesn't mean that we're going to stop and not accept open market bid if somebody want to come along and buy it. One thing I think we did look at last month is the interest maybe for Murfreesboro. I remember we brought that up from Murfreesboro City on what they planning to do. And they may be interested in purchasing some of our property to do that. I thought we were going to look at some of that money maybe to go into the Goldstein renovation if we move forward. And
I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, that they're interested in our property there on the corner where the gazebo is at this point. They released their plans last week or 2 weeks ago.
I thought the chairman meant that perhaps we'll have some income stream come in that we might choose to put into the Goldstein. Is that,
that's what I was looking at.
as opposed to them buying it?
Because we still, somewhere or another, we still own half of this, and over there where the parking lot is or something, we own half of that, and we still own some property over there with the Murfreesboro City, and then I don't know where the library, who would, you know, benefit from that.
Well, I think since they released their plans to put the boutique hotel in the old police department building, then they're going to go down from where WGNS is, the real estate company. They've already purchased the real estate company, and I think they've come to terms with WGNS. They're going on down to the police annex. They're going to tear all that down. I think they've reached a conclusion on the auto used car lot on the corner of Church and Broad. Then they're going to turn right and wipe out all those buildings all the way down to Vine and come back up. The first floor will all be retail. Second, third, and fourth floors will be condos. For residential, they are planning, and their design will be a pedestrian bridge that will go over, and they have purchased all this property where the old Shoney's used to be, the break location. All that's going to be greenway and join with the trailhead. So I think that's the direction that they're moving in. Now, I have not approached them as far as asking. They had shared with me in a year or two ago that they would really like to have the library to move their administrative offices into. Right now, the fire department, which is the old city hall built back in the 60s, I believe they're moving them out to the Swanson building on Thompson Lane. That was my last understanding.
So there's a lot of activity going on in that area.
Yes, sir. Well, the whole downtown area is a buzz.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm recollecting the multiple conversations we've had about Goldstein's, and I recall that there was a consensus to move it forward to PBA with the potential for a remodel and keeping our facilities down there. With that in mind, I make a motion to accept the PBA's request for $291,000.
Got a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gooch. Any other discussion? If not, call the roll, and I guess we'll send this on the budget. Will that?
To be sent to budget, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Lascassas Public Safety Building. And Thought I saw Commissioner Piercy here, so I'd like to suspend the rules so we can hear from Commissioner Piercy on that project. Is there any objection from the committee? Okay, you object?
Home early. This is gonna take a while here. I have come to you tonight asking for help on our public safety building that we're proposed to get at the Lascassas old school site. When this building was drawn out the first time, it didn't really fit the property like it really should. I've met with the PBA chairman and the architect out there, and we have kind of changed some of the layout of how it fits the property. You'll see it on your desk. There's one marked A. The best version is got a B on it. The A version was our first change, and we had to scoot the building over toward the property to the east, which really encroached it on the person's house that's on that property, made it very close. And we shifted the parking to the left-hand side of the building. Well, that left access going into our volunteer fire department on that entrance very narrow, and also going back to the other two buildings that's beside the volunteer building. On the left side of the A picture, you'll see where the ballpark lays in behind all of this property right here. And the Lascassas ballpark is one of the few left where children can actually come and play softball, baseball, coach pitch, t-ball. It's a wide community field. The only other one I'm aware of is at Walter Hill on our side, and it's nothing compared to this. For the people to get into the ballpark on the A drawing, they will have to share one of the entrances going into the public safety building, which will cause a cluster when they have a tournament or a game that's going to attract a large number of people, because most of the time the people are used to parking down around the old school building and the volunteer fire department and out front, just wherever they can get to park. Our B drawing was our last hope. We scooted the building basically back over into the middle of the property. We put the parking back on the east side. There's also additional room on the left of the B drawing to have additional parking there in case we ever want to have like a training facility there for fire and rescue, maybe going on further into our recycle programs. I know this building has got a room in the middle of it that can be used for classrooms or small occasion events for the community, and it would create more parking to the left of this building. Plus, it will block all the parking for this ballpark away from the public safety people. They won't be blocking them in, they won't be blocking the driveways. Our solution to B is we have met with the gentleman that owns the property on the left. He has purchased this property 6, maybe 8 months ago. And myself and Stan Vault have met with him, and he has agreed to sell us an additional 3 acres on this side, on the left side of this drawing, for a designated entrance to the Lascassas ballpark, a permanent entrance that they can have. They can use anytime, all the time, whatever they want to. And it also adds 2 acres to the back portion of the ballpark for maybe a future ball field or maybe a future soccer field, or they could just use it for parking. They really need it for parking is what they need it for. But this is an investment in my community, for my district. It's not a recurring expense. The gentleman has offered to sell us this property for $50,000 an acre. It'd be a $150,000 investment. It's not like throwing it away. At any time, the county could go back and most likely resell it if they ever choose to. And I would ask that y'all give this consideration to fund this to help our public safety building and also help our children have a designated way into their ballpark from now on. It will be there forever. To invest in the children, I think is a good investment. Thank you very much.
Stand up. Any questions? Questions from the committee?
Who runs the ball field, or who's takes care of it? And does it belong to the school or the community, or?
Belongs to the county.
Yeah, we run that. I think Mr. Marshall is over the county recreation department meets out at Lane Agra, and they take care of all the ball fields at Rockvale, Kittrell.
Well,
And they do the summer programs, and we buy the balls, through all the balls that they use, soccer, softball, that type stuff.
Okay, I'm not. What is this right here?
That's a track with a playground.
Is it on the picture up there? Oh, I see it now. Okay. And so just to the left of that is 3 acres that we could drive up there and park.
The property opens up at the road. It's about 70 feet wide and goes back and then expands out into about 2.5 more acres in the back. All we asked for was just an entrance off the highway. And the entrance can be worked into the plans of the public safety building because it will be a simple gravel road once it leaves the state property.
But it doesn't really move the building at all.
No.
It just, okay, thank you.
No.
What's the cost of this acreage?
$50,000 an acre.
Okay.
The gentleman that owns it, he just purchased 30 acres above it about 3/4 of a mile 2 Saturdays ago and gives $63,000 an acre for it.
Okay.
But we had asked him to price us this prior to that sale. He's not going to back up.
Could any of this COVID money be used for that? I didn't think it could be.
I've talked to the finance director, and she says she has the money in some what we worked on and changed to $1 a square foot. Not that money, but some of the other money.
The development tax that's
Yes.
still,
Yes.
Development tax.
She said she
Comes
had
from schools.
150 in a development tax that could be spent on it if y'all chose to send it to budget. The money's there.
You
it's
can make the
just-
motion subject to.
Well, yes, my motion is to send this proposal to budget.
Well, motion to send it
I'll
to
second
budget. Got a second by Commissioner Buchanan. Any other discussion? Commissioner Cook?
What do you all have planned for the senior citizens out there? You got something planned for the young people? What do you got for the...
We're hoping that maybe we can take the old fire hall building, if we choose to leave it, and use it for like a community center. They might even could go back and have fish fries there, or use it for something if it doesn't have to be tore down, and I don't think it will be for a pretty good while. So that would be good for the seniors, because we've had them before, we've had them for years, and it's a great attraction, and a lot of seniors come to it. It's the only place left that you can come and gather out on that side of the county.
You have good fish fries.
We do. We do. We do. I really miss them.
Stick up for the senior citizens.
Right.
And as well as the young people, too.
Right.
Because 30 years ago, they were young. Now they're getting older, and they're saying, what were you doing for me now? So that's why I'm saying this.
I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. Everyone needs someone to stick up for them.
Oh, let me call it back in session. I took a motion and a second. We was out of session. Let me call it back in session. And back in session, I got a motion by Trey Gooch to accept the proposal coming from Commissioner Piercy in the Lascassas district And I got a second by Commissioner Buchanan to it, and we had a discussion. Any other discussion on it? We all understand what we're looking at, and I'm gonna add on to that we send it to budget, Trey. Okay. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. Next on the agenda, juvenile detention repair. Adam? Oh, Commissioner Gooch? Nah. Huh? I don't know where he went.
Mr. Chair, do you just want a summary of the repair?
I would like a summary of the repair work that was done at the juvenile detention center. Just a summary, please.
Okay, so this was brought to my attention in early January of this year. There was a leak. It's something that we've all known about. It had been leaking for some time. It was in a transitional area that leads to an outdoor recreation area where they let the children go out and I guess play. So the ceiling was a solid ceiling, and when we went out there, my first assessment was that it was drywall. That led me to believe that it was what we would consider a secure zone and that it was a soft ceiling. Another assessment that I made was that there were several mechanical items in this small vestibule. This vestibule is roughly 6 by 8-ish, 8 by 8. There was high voltage, there was lighting, there was low voltage, there was ductwork, plumbing. All of this was concealed within 4 walls with a solid ceiling. So seeing that, I wanted to explore if I had another option to better address future potential mechanical problems, because what started this was a pipe that was a plumbing pipe that was sweating, and it caused a drip off of the water pipe, and it was dripping onto the drywall ceiling. So I knew we were going to replace it, and so once I kind of started looking into what my options were, if I had any options. I reached out to an architect that had a significant amount of experience dealing with correctional facilities, and I asked them how they handle areas that are what we consider secure zone areas that don't require a hard ceiling. He told me that there were options that correctional facilities use to be able to maintenance and get to these areas. So basically, that research, I started with the codes, regulations. I looked at TCI because we're familiar with TCI with the Correctional Work Center. That deals with just adults. So that led me to the Department of Children's Services. So like I said, throughout this process, we started with an email chain. We went back and forth. I would keep them updated throughout the entire process. We waited on supplies. When we finally determined which route we were going to go, it was it was in, I guess it was the Department of Justice is where I went, because the Department of Children's Services, the description of what my options were was pretty vague. So it told me to go to the federal level. So I found the exact scenario that I was looking at on like I said, at the National Institute for Corrections. So, Chairman, if you would, there is an exhibit that gives you basically an outline here that shows you what the difference between an unsecure zone and a secure zone is. So once that was determined...
Excuse me, is that in this package?
Yes.
Okay.
Looks like this.
Okay, thank you.
So once that was determined that that area, that drywall ceiling was in there and it had to meet a fire code, that's basically what its most important purpose was. So the ceiling that we went back with is basically, you wind up with a similar type system. It is a suspended ceiling. It meets all the Class A fire requirements that the drywall ceiling has. It was installed with a special tamper-proof brackets that have been installed now that won't allow the tiles to be accessed from the bottom. The track system, all this information is in front of you. The track system was also Class A. It had to be a heavier gauge metal. It had to have the fire UL listed. The tiles have the Class A fire rating on them as well. And the tamper brackets, that was brought to my attention by the architect, that as long as that area met the fire codes and that it couldn't be easily accessed from below. It can only be accessed through the top. So basically that's what we decided to do. We were looking at it all to keep all of our safety codes and our fire codes met, and I also spoke with the fire marshal and got his approval as well. So once all of these requirements were met, I decided that we would go this direction so that in the future, if we had an electrical issue or a short electrical fire, another leak, or we needed to access, there's also a sprinkler head in there. So any of these mechanical issues that are contained to this vestibule, our guys would have access to work on it and get it finished in a timely manner. Because during this construction phase, I know that it was, it was an inconvenience for Juvenile to have this area unaccessible for that short period of time, and I knew that. But it's not always cut and dry when you go to tearing something out and going to rebuild it and put it back together, because you're not just rebuilding a ceiling, but you're hooking back lighting, you're hooking back smoke detectors, HVAC duct. So once we got all that back together, to make a long story short, we ran it by. We were able to reach out to the Department of Children's Services, and we were able to explain to them what type of system we put back in, that it met fire codes, it met safety codes, and he seemed to be okay with the system that we decided to go back in with.
Okay.
I don't know what else.
Any questions concerning this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the new ceiling, if you have to go back in there, you only damage a small portion and leave all the rest intact? So it's a quicker in, quicker out, and a smaller repair?
That was really it would have been much easier when we. Well, let me tell you this too. Another reason why it took a couple more days than we were hoping for was that before we could make our final decision on using a suspended type ceiling, we had to know that that this secure zone was indeed a secure zone, which I suspected it was because it's surrounded by concrete walls that go all the way to the roof deck. But that was the determining factor. An area that would allow access to the plenum would be an unsecure zone. Therefore, that ceiling would have to be constructed of like steel and concrete. But in this case, like I mentioned earlier, when you see that drywall, you know that the drywall is obviously that's not constructed of steel and concrete. So I knew it was a soft ceiling. And that is an area that they transition children to, like I said, to the outdoor recreation area. So going forward in the future, I looked at it like, okay, if I can meet the requirements of the fire codes and the safety codes, I would go this route, even though it was more time consuming. But in the future, my guys, if we have another issue within this vestibule, we can go in and out and have that issue resolved fairly quick, and the employees there, they won't have to not have access to that area any longer. That was my intentions, to try to cover both, areas. Meet the minimum requirements that we had to, but also make it more maintenance friendly in the future if we have potential problems. Like I said, screwing drywall back up would have been easier, but I felt like this was the best option moving forward.
Any other questions? Okay, the reason this is on the agenda, that Mr. Johnson and myself serve on steering committee. At the steering committee meeting, it was brought up, first of all, we got to talking about pros and cons to this committee overseeing the juvenile center and what their agreements would be and who would serve on it and so on and so forth. In that discussion that was presented by the juvenile director, the roof came up. They asked me, did they come to you about repairing or replacing the roof? I said, no, I hadn't heard anything about replacing the roof on that building. So we had a lot, that led to one thing and it led to another. And the only thing I could tell them, I'm gonna take it back to the committee and I'll get to the bottom of it, which we're trying to do right now. So in discussion with Adam, here's a documentation from January the 26th until that project was completed. And it wasn't repairing or tearing out the roof. It started as a leak in the ceiling. So therefore, so everybody can get on the same order, what was done and the procedure that he took to do it, that everything was followed, I had him to put together a package. This is a communication package that started January the 26th, 2022. One delay in that project, I know you asked about, one delay in the project was supply chain. In other words, some material that he had to have to put the ceiling back up there, it was late coming in. That's no fault on his, but it's our building, and if we had a leak over there, he went through the proper procedure to get that leak fixed. So I asked him, like I said, to put this package together because there was so much confusion on that steering committee, and you can ask Commissioner Johnson, he was there with me, and that I was looking at him and he was looking at me. I didn't know anything about replacing the roof or whatever, so on and so forth. But it initially started with a leaking pipe. So based on that, this package, I am asking with the committee approval, copy of this package be sent to Chairman Harris of the steering committee, Ms. Duke, Juvenile Detention Center. I want a copy of this put in the property management minutes. I want a copy delivered to Commissioner Robert Stevens, and I want a copy committed to Commissioner Cush. Because it led up to that we had a communication problem. You know, I mean, it got that we don't know what we're doing, so on and so forth, and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. So the communication problem was the center of the discussion for the steering committee on that roof, which the initial presentation of questions didn't involve the roof at all. So and I had to do some research and get that done. But that's what I'm asking to be done. Now, once this package is presented to all these players, they go over it, they can come back to us and show where the flaw was in repairing this leak in this ceiling. I don't know if any other committee members wanted to discuss it. I know Commissioner Johnson was there. If you got any questions, I think the both of us basically can answer it. But at the next meeting, after this package is delivered to all those players, then we'll come back. And I want to see where the flaw in communication or whatever was done. Commissioner Johnson.
You need a motion for that?
I would like a motion for it.
Yes.
Got a motion that the packages be presented, and that at the next meeting we discuss the package, and then see if any flaws was committed during this repair. I got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any discussion? Commissioner
Any way I could get a copy of that package?
Oh, yes, sir. It's going to be in our minutes, so we all going to get a copy. Yeah, we're going to get a, yeah, we're going to get a copy.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? I would like to suspend the rule and ask for Ms. Duke to come forward.
Thank you for letting me have a minute tonight to speak. The first thing that I want to bring up, which is fabulous, I'll be more than happy to have a similar packet prepared, is that I'm actually not going to be in town for the next steering committee, and I do want to be here when we do discuss this again. I don't want this to be something that my captain has to address.
We're going to discuss it on property management, not steering.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then disregard that. I'll be here for that meeting. This miscommunication also may have started or been compounded the night that I last spoke on this, when I discussed that it was a ceiling issue, and then as a side said that the roof also had some problems and had problems since the building was built. But I would also just say that part of my packet will be interactions with the maintenance department long before January and long before Adam was the maintenance director. But I'll have all that for you at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay, you've got another packet?
Well, no, I didn't know we were doing packets tonight.
Could I just get a packet in my mailbox?
Absolutely.
If you got another packet?
Well, I don't have one, but I will by the next time, and I'll make sure that I share them with everybody prior to the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we haven't, before our next property management meeting, can you just give a package to the mayor's office, and then I'll see that each one on this committee get a package. So when we have this discussion on the flaws of the outline of how the work was done and everything, we'll have both packages.
Yes, that won't be a problem. Thank you.
Any questions for Lynn? No questions? Okay, well now, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we got a motion, well, I'm calling it back in session. We got a motion and a second that these packages be delivered to the people that I called out on the list. Anybody want to hear the motion again, or what? Any discussion on the motion? Everybody understand the motion? If so, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes. Okay. Next on the agenda, cost comparison cleaning services. Think, Adam, you got that too?
So, Chairman, we touched on this at last property management. We basically, this committee asked me to go back and look over the numbers and give them a comparison of what it might look like to hire, to try and staff the county with full-time employees, a mixture of both, and present the committee a number to just kind of shore up this cost comparison as to what we might be looking at moving forward with contracted services. Basically, nothing changed. I reached out to Lisa. She ran some numbers for a fully loaded employee, what we thought the projections might look like for their salaries, and then some part-time. And basically, those numbers that I gave you last month are still pretty secure. You're looking at somewhere between $100,000 and $125,000. That's kind of where you're looking at if you attempted to do this in-house versus try to contract it out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. To give you a little background, just as a refresher from last month, we were having difficulty because of not just COVID, but illnesses, getting part-time, our part-time staff, Miss Janie, she was in the hospital for months. Couldn't get a response, and she's the one that was leading the team for our buildings. And I think Adam gave you our total square footage of number of buildings that we have taken on. And we were trying to combine not only what he currently has, but also taking money out of ambulance and fire and rescue as far as maintenance on those buildings as well, and have do maintenance as opposed to having a paramedic that makes $85,000 a year mowing the grass for EMS. It just didn't make sense, so let maintenance do what it's supposed to do. So we tasked Adam with looking at JLL which is a national cleaning company. They do a lot of the buildings in downtown Nashville for the state of Tennessee. We were able to make contact with another company, I believe, and you got estimates. They came and went through every building, I believe, Adam, that we have.
Correct.
You toured with them. They have given us a quote as well. As far as coming in and professionally cleaning our buildings, all due respect to the folks that we have, they do the best that they can. But some can't get up on a ladder. They clean the doors coming into the courthouse as far as they can reach, so it looks like your windshield. It goes as far as the windshield wiper goes, and the rest of it's dirty. So the decision was to let's compare what we have with our part-time and see what it would cost to go to an outside cleaning service, us being as large as what we are with the number of total square feet. How many square feet we got? Over 1 million?
Well, that we maintenance, the actual cleaning area is about 255 to 260,000 square foot is what we would be asking this company to maintenance.
To where it'd be consistent, and if we have a problem, then Adam and his team can work with them. And we asked Ms. Stevenson to come and discuss tonight, Mr. Chairman, the cost of what we're paying right now when we don't pay benefits either on our part-time folks, and what it would cost. So if you don't mind suspending the rules, allow her to come up and discuss that.
Okay, we'll suspend the rule and come up with it.
And as she's coming up, Mr. Chairman, that, as you all know, deferred maintenance or lack of, we have too many buildings that we need to keep clean and keep in good shape. It makes a difference in long-term what it ends up costing you if you're on top of it. So, Adam, you're not supposed to walk away.
You stay up here with me.
Yeah, you can stay up here with me.
So what kind of prompted this is I had the privilege of going to the state capitol several times with Mayor Ketchum for different meetings, and Lisa Nolan and I went to some finance meetings at the comptroller's office there. I always noticed how clean it was and people were working, so I asked him at one point in time, what would this look like? And that's kind of what precipitated this, getting with Adam and getting these other individuals to come in. So one of the things is we do have a full-time person who is getting benefits, and that is Miss Janie that he spoke of. She is the custodian supervisor. And putting the plans in place, trying to compare apples to apples, like what will these other organizations bring in to clean the buildings, what's their staff going to look like, and our best guess based on what they put in their reports is that they would have a supervisor that would be on duty to ensure that their employees came to work, that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, and if they needed supplies and those type things. The other things is they had mentioned having 3 full-time rovers, and what the rovers would do is go to our buildings, for example, the high-traffic buildings like the Judicial Center. If they kept it clean during the day, the toilet paper fill, the paper towels, there was an accident or spill in another department, them being a rover, they could go to an additional building to clean. So those 3 full-time individuals would be here during the day to service all the county buildings should there be a need. Then on top of that, they would have about 12 part-time individuals that would clean the buildings at night. And so that's similar to what we're doing currently. And if you add up all the cost, I didn't know that you had asked Lisa to do it as well, but if you add up the cost and you just said your 15 part-time individuals were working around 25 hours a week and you were doing that, it would be, with benefits and everything, $468,000. Now, with the cost of the supplies, because one of the things I actually met with the group and toured with Adam and the group, and with the supplies that they were going to provide, all the materials and everything, the equipment, they're responsible for their own equipment, so we don't have to purchase or rent a buffer or a floor scrubber or all the things that we need. Also, they would be doing a little bit more extensive cleaning uniforms, yeah, they would be in their own uniforms. They would be doing a little bit more extensive cleaning that we're currently doing. One of the things is they would be responsible for cleaning baseboards, all the doors, fronts and backs of doors, the interior windows, stairwells, elevators, a little bit more extensive than what we're currently receiving. Most of the buildings get their trash emptied, their bathrooms cleaned, the floors swept and mopped and vacuumed. But it has been some time since we've been able to scrub the floors, strip and wax, based on the current team that we have. It's just physically labor intensive to do that. So that was what brought us forth tonight to request this. The other benefit of having an outside company, everybody's heard, the turnover is difficult for us to staff. We have, not only we have the staffing in our public safety, we've talked lots about what public safety has from a staffing, but that's across the board. This past pay period that we just finished, Jeannie in my office handles all the incoming and the onboarding and offboarding of employees. And we offboarded 27 employees this month, or yes, this pay period, offboarded 27 employees and onboarded 28 in a 2-week span. That is the most. Finance actually called and complimented her on being able to handle that task. So the turnover is not just in one department. We're experiencing that in all of our departments. What this does is put the responsibility and the liability up on this outside organization. If somebody calls out, that's not our problem, that's their problem. The building still has to be cleaned and those type things. The other things that they will provide is their own insurance, their own workers' comp, their own benefits that they may have, everything they will be responsible for. So for a minimal cost, and at the end of the day, it may end up being a cost savings of some sort, but for a minimal difference in price, it is worth, in my opinion, the value. So, if the companies do what they say they're going to do, I guess I would say that. So,
Any questions?
I know on the judicial building, there was some discussion in times past that Ms. Harrell, because they weren't getting the carpet clean, they would purposely put a Cheerio down by one of their chairs in the workstations and see how long the Cheerio stayed there. Would be weeks before it was ever vacuumed up, meaning they were just showing that people that we have hired part-time were not doing, and that's a beast of a building that we have at Judicial Building. A lot of traffic with all the trials and juries and everybody coming in. And I know just at 319 Maple, Ms. Kroll is here, the amount of traffic that they get in that is constantly needing cleaning. So that's kind of what Adam has presented to you. So it's something this committee, you're in charge of property management, something to look at. I think it's a good move by the commission to move in this direction. I'd like to see that happen. I'm not going to be here, but I'd like to see the buildings continue.
Can I add something to
Yes, sir.
what Sonia, she did touch on the 3 full-time rovers that we have requested. That's in our scope, and we did that by design because if you go into like if you're in Nashville or you go into some places of business during the day, you'll notice that you'll see staff in and out of buildings and maintaining them throughout the day. I think that is an excellent service that to provide during business hours as well. And I'm not saying that this person will be, dedicated to one facility, but they can be moved around, like Sonia said, to our high traffic areas, because we have had several accidents. in multiple buildings throughout the day, and we don't have staff here to address those issues. You know, these guys are trained and they're certified in bloodborne pathogens, for instance, and you know, they're trained in proper ways to clean, and you know, that's you're not just paying what I would consider it's not a substantial more than what we're spending, what the county's looking to spend now, is what I'm trying to say. But I feel like the product that we will be giving the county is going to be just leaps and bounds above what we have been able to offer now. And even if she also touched on this, but I want to hit it again. Even if we had, you know, all these positions and we budgeted for them, there's nothing guaranteeing that we could even fill those positions right now. It is extremely hard to even put employees in the buildings to do so. So there's a couple more things just to think about.
Any questions? Need to make a decision on this before budget, before the new.
Send it with a positive recommendation and let budget figure out the difference in what currently being paid, and let Ms. Nolan figure it into the total budget to go forward, and the difference what we're currently paying and what you got 2 bids, Adam?
Currently, yes, but we already have other contractors lined up that we can submit a bid package.
Okay. So we'll send it to purchasing committee.
Okay, so from this committee, we want to send this proposal to purchasing first, budget first.
On budget. What do you think?
I think we send it to budget first.
Budget first?
Yep.
Well, okay, question. So do we still need to send it out for bid? Or we've already decided?
Yeah, sir, it's going to be over, what was the total amount? It's over 400. Well, the difference of what we're paying now.
Well, the proposal numbers, they're not actually hard bid numbers.
They're not hard bid numbers.
We're looking somewhere around 620 to 630 between the two companies that we've spoken with.
About another 150,000. So, yes, sir, we need to.
Got to go to purchasing.
We need to send it to purchasing, let Laura put it out to bid. In the meantime.
We need to kind of have a budget for it. See if it can go into the.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, my motion is to send it to budget with a positive recommendation.
Motion and second to send it to budget with a positive recommendation. Do I have any other discussion? Any other questions? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes?
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, Veterans Community Center.
Mike, come on. Am I good to go? Well, Commissioners, so we have now been successful. We have a signed lease agreement. We have the two parties have come together on this, and we've completed that project. We've turned that part of the facility over to the veterans. Keep in mind that we're still going to have Dominique and I think room for a future assistant that will be in a portion of this building that will stay under our maintenance. This is the ADA. This is the rear entrance. It's just going to give you some pictures, kind of let you know. There's the inside. We replaced the flooring, which I have touched on before. Paint, lighting, we replaced lamps, ceiling tiles throughout. They've already started moving some of their furniture in to a meeting room. That's the hallway. Another portion. Now the county administrative part, you can see where that transition happens. That one area is carpeted. That's the area that the county will occupy. Everything that you see that's LVT is the Veterans Community Center. So there's another conference room that they've already moved in. They're starting to decorate. And there's the front, their new sign. That's probably, yeah, that's all I've got, so. But as far as the Veterans Community Center, that pretty much wrapped that project up.
As soon as Dominic, I think he's already moved some stuff in, but he's on vacation. On vacation. As soon as he gets back, he'll be moving in. I think, and talking with Adam this morning, IT is I think everything's done. The veterans groups, as you recall, there are 21 veterans groups here in Rutherford County with over 21,000 veterans that will be using this. Dominic will be in the front office, what used to be Ben's office, and coming in the front entrance. We boarded up that door. The window right there before you get to the stone will be his assistant. I've requested that in my budget for this year to give to him, because the veterans coordinator, who will be working with all the veterans, getting them lined up with their benefits at the VA, et cetera. They've restriped, recoated the parking lot. It was a nasty building. Of course, maintenance is, all due respect, Barry, sorry, but it was. I mean, it took a lot of work, and we had several paint days over there. The guys came over, the painters came up. I mean, the veterans came over and painted. They took a lot of pride in it, and I think it'll give them some place for years to come and meet. It's not a American Legion or the smoke-filled bar and things like that. This is a very, very professional looking.
Mr. American Legion.
So I just want to say thank you, Property Management Committee and the Commission, for doing this for our veterans. It's going to be well needed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the stone wall there, this may be petty, but there's some dark areas.
I can pressure washer that.
We're going to do that?
We can. It was, if you'll look at the parking lot carefully, that rock is wet. It's been raining. I wanted to get you the most recent picture that I could. So when I took that picture yesterday, it was raining pretty substantial. So those rocks are wet. But we will
well, that's just
look at it.
Water stain, not dirt and grime that could be pressure washed out.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Got a brand new roof on it. I think you all put the roof on back in the fall. That was part of our gov money. We put a new roof on, so it's an excellent.
And that's what you see from the road.
Yes, sir. That would be looking at it from Memorial.
Okay. Yeah, just have the mayor go out there and spray it down, or.
Any other?
The deputy to the mayor.
Oh, deputy to the mayor. I didn't hear the deputy part. There you go.
Any other questions?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gannon?
Adam, I was just looking outside. Do they have meetings at night or during the day or what?
Their schedule hasn't been determined as to when they're going to occupy the building. They said that they could be in there at night. Yes.
Those outside lights work and everything. Have you checked all that? And we check just make sure.
If they don't for some reason, that's an easy fix. That's an easy fix. I know that the security light, that parking lot is also under a security light as well.
Okay, any other questions? Not, I think that was a real good project coming out of this committee, like the mayor stated.
And I think they're planning on having a ribbon cutting and kind of an open house, having hamburgers, hot dogs, and et cetera. They, if you recall, we will prorate the utilities for them since we own the building, we will prorate the utilities, and somewhere $700-800 a month, they'll be responsible for paying their pro rata portion of the heat, gas, and water.
Okay, next on the agenda, One Stop.
Okay, now, Blackman One Stop, we have touched on this, Commissioners, multiple times. This project got off to a rough start, so they are behind a little bit. As you can see, this picture was taken yesterday. That's the most recent that I've been out there. They have since poured their footer, so I spoke to the super. They're projecting to start laying some block early next week, but the weather conditions this week have been pretty rough on these guys out in the field this week. So, but the footer is now in, which is excellent to see considering the soil work that had to be done. So that is where we stand with One Stop.
Okay. Further discussion from Lisa. One Stop. Questions from the committee? Okay, next, Public Health and Safety Buildings.
Okay, Commissioners, we're going to start with Rockville first because it's significantly further along. This will just give you kind of an example of where they're at currently. This was also a day or two ago. They have started setting up the scaffold. So that was what we touched on last month, that we were hoping to get to that point. We were waiting on some concrete. So you can see they have started pouring the floor. There's a better look at it. So you have some rough in already in. You have several portions of the facility the floor have already been poured. So they projected that if you go back here, they projected that early next week they would hopefully start to be raising that wall up, weather permitting. So that's where you're at with Rockville. Do you have any questions concerning where we're at with Rockville? If not, we'll jump over to Kittrell. That currently they are grading. They do have their compact grade in. They'll give you a couple images there in front of the existing fire department. So I also spoke to the project manager on that site. They were hoping to be digging for the footer, but there's a shortage right now on concrete. So they are actually waiting. They're hoping that the first week of June, they will be able to dig and hopefully start pouring their footer as well. But right now, they're just kind of playing a waiting game.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Hollinshead out of Smyrna Ready Mix, and he said that the problem is that most cement that goes to make concrete comes from Russia. And there's trade embargoes, and so there's a shortage of concrete nationwide.
That's pretty much the full report on public health and safety.
Anybody have any questions on the Public Health and Safety Building project?
Before, it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to go ahead and include it because we were able to wrap up Station 57, which is the fire and rescue on Elam Road. This is a project that kind of took longer than what we were hoping for, but it's complete now, and I wanted to just let y'all see how it turned out, what it looks like. we ran into several problems. Well, I think we touched on it in last property management, but the siding was deteriorated. It was rotten. So as we started tearing off the existing T111, we realized that it didn't have any sort of sheeting or interior walls. So you went right inside to the insulation. The walls were open. So we had to regroup. We ended up having to line the walls with OSB and then moisture barrier wrap before we could apply the siding. We also
took the pine tree down.
That was, yes, we did.
A big pine tree that was hanging down on the roofs.
We also ended up replacing the fasteners in the roof. We noticed that it was a minimal investment. We thought that we would go ahead and do that while the building was under construction. So the fasteners have been replaced. I think. Yeah.
Commissioner Buchanan, it looks better, doesn't it?
They still complaining. It looks great. It does. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? Okay, next on the agenda, community care building.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take that. In talking with Tanner, our director out there, Ms. Carroll was out there yesterday preparing the budget. Budget looks good. It's in the black, operating well. We checked with our attorney, Mr. Cope, Evan Cope. The Garver Construction Company, we asked to come off the job because of that Christie Houston grant had been there for over 2 years. And I know COVID got in the way, but at the same time, there would be weeks and weeks that no one showed up to do that. So they finally completed phase 1. But the managing company that the board has contracted with to run the day-to-day operations, United Church Homes, they have a relationship with a contractor that has a location in Nashville, Tennessee. They are working on numbers, and they're prepared to, I think, by this coming Monday, they'll have numbers to proceed on phase 2 and phase 3. And it's basically cosmetic, so we should be able to get those open within 6 months, get both those wings open, new nurses station, and everything's headed in the right direction. Sounds good. The daycare facility is full, and I think everybody's excited out there. The tempo is up. I think there was a motion by your committee yesterday to increase the pay for the employees there as well. And the garden is planted, and all this rain should be making the corn and okra grow. And then they're going to be planting flowers for fall, pumpkins and squash for fall, to take inside to the patients as well. There is a need for roof section. Adam, is that roof section right above the white area, the hallway? Yes, sir. Okay. So Adam shared with me this morning that we're probably going to have to spend about $100,000 or a little more than that to replace that roof. Mr. Mankin had tried to repair it for several years. Just repair and repair and repair, and it continued in that way, and we still have a major leak, which we don't want to continue because then you start getting mold, and we have a very sensitive population there to anything airborne like that. So I told Adam to go ahead. I think that we should have enough Gov 20 and 21 money left to put it before the Budget Committee and request expenditure to fix the rest of that roof section. So, you can turn your mic on.
On the garden, the residents are really looking forward to shelling the beans and the peas and gathering corn. But we have to be careful. The state has to approve some of this.
Sure. But in order to fix the roof, yeah, we do. But in order to fix the roof, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the committee to send it to budget to see if they can find the money in Gov 2021 to at least start getting quotes, send it to purchasing to take care of this roof. We own the buildings, okay? We just contract with the company to run the internal management of that. So I think we need to step up and do it right. That's a flat roof? I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm getting 2-3 phone calls a week, especially with the rain, with it raining. It's becoming problematic. Could we use the liquid application like we did here on the courthouse? Okay. Yeah, it may be too far gone to put liquid on it. Okay.
Okay, and the committee understand what section we're talking about? Understand what we need?
I will say on the Gov 21 money, we did receive a letter from the comptroller's office late last week, that, you know, we were supposed to obligate that Gov 21 money, not Gov 20, but 21. We were supposed to have it obligated, not spent, by June 30th. They have released that requirement now. Ms. Nolan and I received a copy from the comptroller's office.
I make a motion that we go ahead and get Adam to check the roof, and let's go forward on it.
Well, and send it to budget.
Send it to budget.
Send it to budget for funding.
Uh-huh.
Look for funding so they can send it to purchasing to put out to bid.
Yeah, the roof is our priority.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's not the nursing home's part.
That's correct.
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second? Got a second from Commissioner Gannon. Any discussion? Not, call the roll.
Commissioner Buchanan, Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda, the journey home, which they didn't show up, but
I'll take it, Mr.
Harry's
Chairman.
gonna
So
present it.
you see on your SharePoint, there's a letter that Mr. Scott Foster, he's the executive director of Journey Home here in Murfreesboro. He sent to me and Director Dixon, which she has now left her position as of the other night. And we have a temporary, John is serving as temporary director down there. But anyway, our location in Smyrna, you can see in this letter, we entered into a partnership with them last year with Journey Home to use part of our health facility there in downtown Smyrna. They've assisted 351 cases representing 338 households with 620 members, move from homelessness towards stable housing to maintain housing that was at risk of loss. So they want to utilize in this partnership with us. So this is a renewal to continue to allow Journey Home to use part of our building there in Smyrna.
questions on it? Discussion.
We
Entertain a
just
motion.
need a motion to allow the partnership to continue.
Motion to approve the
Got
partnership.
a motion, do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Buchanan. Any other discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes?
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Yes.
Chairman McAdoo.
Yes. Okay, is there any other business to come before the committee tonight?
No, sir.
Not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, meeting adjourned.